Hello and welcome to the Kerfuffle podcast with me, David Mintz, and him,
Simon Whale, not infected.
Definitely not infected.
Not with that.
As you can see, our viewers at home can see we are properly taking all precautions.
We got merch. We got face masks, Kerfuffle face masks.
Yeah,
As quickly as I can write them up.
very impressive. I've got to tell you, the inside of my face mask smells a little bit like a estate agent. Yeah, I'm getting that.
We've taken a different view. So you've gone with the blue side on the outside.
Yep.
And I've gone on the inside. So one of us is going to live. Vote now.
Who would you like to live?
I think I know where that vote is going.
Well, it's very... there we go. That's better. That's better.
And you haven't introduced...
Oh, I'm sorry. I've almost...
Patient zero.
This is patient zero.
Mask on for that.
This is Milton Jannusch, right? I pronounced that correctly.
You got it right. Bang on.
Okay,
Thank
and
you
he
very
is here to tell us about his...
Did you call him baby?
So bang on.
Oh, bang on. All right, baby.
Bang on, baby.
Familiarity.
So, yeah,
It's an Australian thing.
Milton.
No, it's hence why this disease. No, I'm definitely not saying that. All Australians.
No, we'll get into that in a second. Milton joins us from KeyWhere and is going to demo some fantastic Proptech.
Is it live as well? This
It's
is the first
live,
live.
and I actually,
somewhere, yes.
If you can fit it.
I actually think this is amazing. You should be forced to sit through a Proptech demo.
What, so that I don't just talk about it?
Having tortured people for years with your demos,
But
we're going to flip it. But obviously, the coronavirus is very much in the news.
Yep. What's that?
And people are...
Is that why they're washing their hands?
That's why everybody's washing their hands, Simon. You must wash your hands as well, before and after, yeah? Well, in fact, you must do it during as well. All right? But they are scrambling to find the origins of this disease in this country. So that's patient zero, whoever he is.
Yeah. Self-isolation happening all over the place.
All over the place. So if you know who patient zero, agent zero is, please write into podcast at kerfuffle.it.
We're going to pick them out, aren't we?
Yeah, we're going to name and shame.
Normally a monkey or a bat.
This is actually very prevalent and very pertinent to the Proptech industry because we've got a lot of people that work on the road, visiting people, spreading viruses around the country.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
This is really how we're viewed by you agencies.
This is exactly how we see you, as living virus spreaders, petri dishes. But this is very serious because millions of workers could be told to work from home as ministers draw up a battle plan to prevent the coronavirus epidemic in Britain. Companies may also be ordered to halt all unnecessary travel, and social distancing strategy might be implemented as well by the government. Oh. You started your social distancing strategy years ago as soon as you got a Facebook account.
What, being just sent to a special place?
But it has very, very, very serious implications for men with facial hair.
This is the great. I already know where you're going with this. This is the American advice, isn't it?
Well, this is it. No, this is now NHS guidelines
it's
for
NHS,
people with facial hair.
They've taken it now from America.
Wow.
That's it. Yeah. So acceptable is obviously clean shaven. Stubble is a no. Because you can't...
Looks like mine. That whole thing, by the way, is my best night at Mardi Gras.
I've seen you with a woman that looks like a combination of all these guys. The Zorro's okay, so you allowed a nice little moustache.
Just to explain, this is so it all stays within the
mask. This is all about getting a nice tight seal on your mask.
I thought no one's got any of these masks, so what are we doing this for? So,
well, apparently somebody's going to survive. The person that reads this article and sticks to it.
What does that mean for the hipsters? I mean,
there's no way they'll get rid of that, will they?
You're allowed.
That's a big one.
You're allowed a Frank Zappa.
I love the idea.
You cannot have a circle beard, which is like a bit of a goatee. Forget it. That's gone. Not because it will spread the disease, because it belongs in the 1990s, and you should just stay there. And hipsters are gone. Full beards are gone. I'm afraid, mate. Yeah.
Right.
So that's moved on. But one of the things that this now means is that we've obviously got a shortage of the antibacterial hand wash stuff.
Yeah, so that stuff that you see people
so
with
normally,
OCD.
Yeah, so you need to, I think the guidelines state that you need more than 60% alcohol
That's half the stuff we drink, isn't it?
I was going to say. So if you can't find any of that stuff, you can just use
Terps.
Jägermeister will do very nicely. Take
Mad
off
Dog
the top.
WKD 2020.
Just soak your hands in it.
Just going to
That's
spend a
fine.
show just talking about our favourite drinks.
But it has, obviously, it's had knock-on effects in other industries as well. Diet Coke supplies are going to dry up because you interrupt the whole flow and cycle of the supply chain. So once China stop accepting deliveries, that kind of has a knock-on
It's almost
effect.
like this just-in-time supply chain stuff is rearing its head again, isn't it?
Yeah. So this is
Now that Brexit's done, I didn't think I'd see it again. But
well here you
Wow,
go.
it's amazing.
Apparently we can't get our
also, did you
stuff.
see that story the other day? Just talking about obviously you've been trying to tease me about the Boris bounce, obviously now fantastic. Well, but it's not, is it? Because cider sales are down over the last year. 20 million they've lost, and it's on. And we're heading south as well. So
cider or
Sorry.
cyber?
no cider.
Cider as in the drinking
I can
stuff.
give a toss about cider. No cider. Stuff you drink on park benches.
Isn't that just a popularity thing? It was okay.
No, I think it's optimism, isn't it? Isn't it about where we're going? Or would you drink more of it if you thought the economy was going to crap? I don't know.
I think so. I think cider
I'm
is...
going to do some research on the way back through through town.
If you see Simon Whale sat at a bus stop drinking a bottle of White Lightning cider,
Don't
please
engage.
stop.
Don't stare.
Give him a lift. Give him a pat on the back.
Can I just say, I mean, I don't want to get all blasé about it, and it's tremendously... But isn't it just a little bit overreaction, all of this stuff? I mean, it's like, when you look at the comparative amount of people dying from all the other 1,000,001 different things, and they're talking about it's already now having as big an impact, and they're talking about it potentially being as big an impact as 2007 and 8 for...
I think over the weekend you saw the markets had already tanked, and now I think this morning they've started to bounce back again.
Overselling,
I think there is that propensity to sort of over panic a little bit,
Yeah.
but it is serious, and I think that we're seeing stories like this where this is like winning the lottery and getting the bonus ball at the same time. There's a woman that's managed to catch the virus twice. Okay, now
Theresa May. It's definitely Theresa May.
now this apparently does happen with flu. You can catch the flu virus twice because a novel strain in your body that it hasn't encountered.
I love
before
the fact they
becomes-
call it a novel strain. Like sort of, how novel. I've caught it twice.
Simon, you do look sweaty and feverish. What's
This is the
that?
second time you've had a bowler.
Very novel.
How novel.
Very novel. But basically, this is what the virus will mutate, and as that happens, it's harder to sort of kill it.
Yeah.
They still haven't got that vaccine, or if they have, only
keeping it to
only the upper
themselves.
echelons have it.
Yeah.
They haven't released
The
it yet
Illuminati.
to the general.
They released these
But they are talking about it being a massive threat to all those industry types that were thinking of going to MIPIM this year.
Yes, well, you did joke about it, didn't you? The last one.
I did.
And actually, straight out to come out.
Actually, the big
I am
names,
glad, though, because Kevin Ellis was planning to have a boat, and he was taunting me about it because he knows I get sick on anything.
I was thinking about boats.
Yeah.
Yeah. My stag do, my friends decided that it would be a really good idea to kidnap me. So they did. They put a bag over my head, bundled
But no
me,
one knew.
bundled me into bundled me into a boot of the car, and as they were doing that, the door came down on my head, knocked me out clean. I woke up 3 hours later on a boat.
Yeah. Shittiest Jason Bourne story ever. With no memory of who he was.
This is my.
I have to sell property for a living.
This is my. This is my agent's. This is my origin story. But I woke up to find out that I get seasick just looking at a
It's
boat.
awful.
I can't stand it.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
That's terrifying me.
But the big names in property skip industry events. So the first people to pull out of MIPIM were people
Collins,
like
was it?
Savills, Knight Frank, Cushman and Wakefield. But now they've actually postponed it for 2 months, which last time I asked you about MIPIM, you said you couldn't go
Now
because
we
it
can
always
go.
clashes
So
with
we can
football.
do a kerfuffle trip.
June, we're doing a kerfuffle
We
trip.
get to see his discounts.
Yes!
Hey, go on, get in.
And I don't think you have to go on a boat, do you?
I think that's where all the best parties are.
Why don't you sort of enjoy wearing that captain's
I've already got.
hat at a jaunty angle? Hello, sailor.
Don't start doing all that stuff. What does handkerchief coming out? That San Francisco stuff.
You
You'd be dying
are
for that,
going to
wouldn't
love that. You're going to love that. But I'm afraid when you do get travelling, China is now going to be banning the eating of cats and dogs.
Okay.
And I know that's one of your favourites.
Well, I just genuinely don't understand why people get so upset by it. I mean, if they've been tortured and, they do the inhumane thing, I don't particularly like the way that they keep them in cages. But just eating cats and dogs, I have absolutely no... I'd eat a panda.
I think it's... You'd eat a panda.
I'd eat a panda.
In one sitting. A whole panda.
Did you get one of those certificates? Like the hottest curry.
I completed the panda challenge.
I wouldn't club it to death.
I just want to make it absolutely clear to any of our viewers, no pandas were harmed in the making
but if you
of
do
this
have
episode.
spare pandas, not dying anyway.
No, but I think it's the way that these rare animals, not cats and dogs, because they're prevalent, but
yes, they keep going through. They keep tiger penises and all sorts
of stuff all together in the same sort of enclosure.
They call them wet zones, or am I getting confused again at the weekend?
I think that's a video you watched over the weekend, to be honest with you.
No, it's horrible. It's really
check out Wet Zones on Pornhub. So they're looking to try and ban that, and if they ban that, hopefully it will stop the spread of these viruses, because that's where they reckon it's come from in the first place.
Yeah.
And of course, your favorite politician in the world, and you've got him on your T-shirt today, Donald Trump has controversially put
it's not an issue.
Put Mike Pence in charge. Just to put this in context, this is the man that has denied HIV and that smoking kills you. Okay,
and he just sits
very
nodding
scientific
behind Trump on everything, going,
completely.
Yes, boss.
But he is now in charge of America's action plan for the spread of coronavirus.
They said it was a Democrat. They said it was a Democrat trick, wasn't it?
Yeah,
to stop him getting
it was.
re-elected.
Yeah, so
he's a genius. That fella. It'll work.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it'll work.
Unbelievable. And so that's all the coronavirus news I've got for you.
That's cheerful, isn't it?
We'll see you next week if we're here.
Hopefully.
1 in 3 of us may survive. Okay. In other news, your beloved football team.
Yes, it's gone off the side of a cliff, hasn't it? So this is dark. Yeah, never mind coronavirus.
But it's not about how badly you do. It's about spin. And this is clever, because Klopp has gone on record as saying that now that the unbeaten record has gone, they can play freely again, which I thought was genius. Why haven't people used that in the agency world already?
Yeah.
Now that we've not managed to sell any houses,
we can finally be good.
This will free us up to do some good stuff.
Best to steer away from that. As I said, I'm still a bit delicate about that.
Okay, you had some news that you wanted to bring up, I think. Yeah, you did. You definitely did.
That was
did. Whilst you look at that, I'm going to give you one of my favourite bits of news. Woman 81 trains parrot to torment her neighbours. Okay? In the hands of experts, opera is the most sublime of art forms, but in the hands of an angry pensioner with an axe to grind, a parrot to sing along, it can become a weapon in the long-running dispute between neighbours. So basically, this old woman has trained her parrot to sing at her neighbours, and they've described it as being akin to Chinese torture. However, that's
Chinese aren't having a good time at the moment.
No, not at all.
Everything
but
Chinese.
They will eat parrots. Yeah, okay, fine. But this old lady, what I thought was great about the story was not the fact that she's trained the parrot. It was all the other stuff that she's done. So she's been caught on CCTV 38 times as she smeared grease over the bonnets of the car and van belonging to the couple. In addition, she scratched the bonnet of their Toyota with her ring, placed sharp It gets better.
Mine's like that sometimes.
It gets better. She placed sharp tacks under the wheels of Mr. Appleton's van and threw dog shit in the couple's garden. Now, I've been angry before. Yeah. I've been described as livid, but I've never actually collected dog mess and then
Pretty
thrown
Patel's
it.
mum, or was it?
But I think that's great. So, how are you getting on with your neighbour now, Simon?
Oh, good. No, everything's lovely.
All
I would never,
You'd never wind them up to that
do anything unsociable on purpose. Sorry, I just found that story, the one you were talking about there. And again, it's just to take it back to the Corona one. It was that churches, communion wine has been ditched because they've stopped giving out communion wine because of concerns of it catching, which Doesn't show you've got too much faith in your deity, though.
So I've got to confess to never having had communion wine.
I used to do it at school because I genuinely used to do it and then shake my head to pretend I was getting drunk.
Does it taste like pork?
It's horrible. No, it's disgusting.
It's like the cheapest one you
Certainly
get.
doesn't taste. It doesn't taste like the son of God. I don't know what that's meant to. Probably
Sublime, I would imagine.
Yes, tasty.
Lovely.
Hello.
Hi, is that Andrew?
Hi. How are you? All right.
You've been chosen at random. No. Hello there.
Very
It's the
random.
Kerfuffle podcast here with Simon, David, and we've even got Milton here from Inspect Real Estate.
Hello, hello.
We always like to throw in an Aussie for extra value. How are you? You're right, Andrew?
Yeah, I'm really good.
Andrew, you are as it says on your LinkedIn profile, which I always go on as verbatim. You are a real estate analyst into PR journalism as well in this space. And but just on that subject, you broke a bit of a massive story this weekend, I believe, in the Telegraph.
Yeah, we've been online agents are well, a bit of an enigma really. But the big story that came was that we finally had the figures that told us how many properties came off the market with Purple Bricks. There's been massive debate about how many they sell, how many they take to the market. But the big bit of information we got was that over 21,000 properties came off the market in 2019.
21,000, yeah, that's
over 21,000.
enormous.
Well, why that's significant is obviously Purple Bricks, it's £999 or $13.99 as a base price to list. So what we know is that those 21,000 people paid £1,000 or more and then took their houses off the market, and that was £18 million of fee.
And that's pretty much beyond conjecture, isn't it? Really, as you said, we know.
No, it was confirmed. It was confirmed by Purple Bricks.
Okay, right. Okay.
So they say yes, but the bigger thing is obviously Purple Bricks have been going almost for 5 years.
Yeah.
And this was only the UK, and we know, of course, that in the US and Australia, they ceased trading last year. So we're going to guess, Simon, that a lot of vendors out there didn't get their houses sold either, and those properties came off the market because there's no agent to market them.
Yeah. And it leads to this kind of residual thing, doesn't it, with traditional agents, where the traditional agent is then challenged to match the discount that they've paid to Purple Bricks or the other online agents to get the other agent to go with them. But to be honest, it's got nothing to do with them, has it? They chose to go with Purple Bricks in the first place.
Well, I mean, there are arguments that basically you pay your money, you take your chance. But another interesting fact is that we know that in the UK last year, they listed 60,000 properties. So Purple Bricks, massive lister, they listed 60,000. And we also know that they took off 21,000. And then we've got Vic Darby saying, we complete on 81% of our sales. Now, you know, I'm an analyst, but do the maths. You take on 60,000, 20,000 come off in the same year. Now, obviously, there's a skew of figures, but I've got to say, for you to complete on 81% of your stock, I think that's difficult. I mean, I was an agent for, I don't know, 30 years, 32 years as an estate agent. I think the ratios are you take 10 on, you sell 7 subject to contract, and 5 go through. To take 10 on and complete on 8 would, I think, be quite difficult because I think people just sometimes take the house off the market because they're not moving. So
it's almost Diane Abbott 120%, isn't it? Sort of statistics.
Yeah, I mean, people say I hate Purple Bricks. I don't. I just think it's bad tech because I do an awful lot of work in the Proptech area, which is, you know, digitizing processes and making life easier for estate agents.
Yeah.
It isn't duffing them up, and it certainly is not saying, oh, you're going to lose your jobs. But the trouble with estate agents, I'm mid-50s, is if I still had the day job and I still run an agency and someone comes to me and says, oh, I've got a bit of tech here, it's going to make your life wonderful, I'd go, oh, get lost. you're trying to sell me something that I don't need, and I'm too busy selling houses. But the problem is the world's moved on. FinTech has told us that technology is all around us all the time. It's an ever-changing world. And I often say to clients, when I do consultancy, take a week off and go and buy some items.
Yeah.
And they go, what the hell are you talking about? And I said, well, you don't buy items like you used to in the 1980s, the 1990s. Go out there. And then often, they don't actually take a week off, but they say, now I get it. My customer base is on their mobile phones 3 hours a day, looks at it 70 times a day. If I'm not communicating with my buyers via, a mobile, then how are they even going to know about me?
Yeah.
So I think Purple Bricks is good in the sense that it said, hey, the old model is old, we need a new one. And obviously, Countrywide, which I've got to say, I was a little bit involved in that, calling them a dinosaur this week. I love Countrywide. I used to work for them in the 1980s, but they've lost their way, so they've got no tech. And I would say Purple Bricks may be bad tech.
So Purple Bricks today took a bit of a battering, didn't they? They lost almost 5%, so that's taken them below their listing price for the first time.
Yeah, they listed on the alternative investment market on the 19th of December 2015 at 95.5p.
Yeah.
And they were bobbling around at £1.07, and now I think they've gone under that.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty interesting. Do you have any? Do you think there are going to be any follow-up stories, or have they cleared the worst of it out there for the moment?
Well, the big story was this. I actually, in another publication, said that in April 2018 they had £152 million in the bank.
Yeah.
So this wasn't revenue that they got from their, business model. It was Axel Springer had bought some shares. Yeah. They had some investment when they went on the alternative market. So they had a cash flow of 152 mil. So a lot of money.
Yeah.
In December time, they had 41 million of it left. And I think now they've got about 32. So I think even though they're getting all this money, all this cash flowing through them, it's more expensive to be an online agent than a traditional agent.
And
that's the truth.
Yeah, who would have thought?
Yeah, and who would have thought that? Because basically they don't have any salespeople. They have listers, but they don't have a big sales force. And they don't have offices, and yet they're more expensive than traditional agents. It's crazy.
It's an amazing little scoop there, Andrew. Will you do us a favour and stay in touch with us over the weeks and months to come, and let us know any more of these?
Yeah, absolutely. Anything that's coming along. I think agency will change, and I think there's some great. There's some great stuff. I'll tell you what is wrong with the industry at the moment. Here we go. I was at the National Association of Estate Agents a few days ago. I believe I actually bumped into yourself.
You did.
Got a lovely Kerfuffle cap that the dog now wears.
That is what's wrong with the agent with the world.
Just to be clear, that's for the head.
That's for the head. And a lovely gentleman came up to me, and actually he turned out to be my local agent. And he's a really good guy, and he's very involved with ROPA, and he's very involved with pushing agency forward. And he said, we've got some new paperwork coming out, Andrew. It's really great. It's going to get things moving really quickly. We're going to get things exchanged more quickly. And I said, have you heard of your keys? And he says, oh, yeah, we're going to go and see them in about a month. And I said, well, I've been in to see Craig Massey. It's Craig Massey and Riccardo Nucci Dawson. And I said, do you realise they're getting things exchanged in 7 days, 168 hours, and that isn't 7 working days. So with all due respect, the bits of paper you were talking to me about that, maybe coming into being in 2 years' time when you've done all your pilot schemes, it's going to be irrelevant because technology is just going to change the whole industry, and it's going to make everyone think, oh my God, I can get my house exchanged in probably 5 working days. So therefore, the sales process before, why don't we do that in 5 days rather than 18 weeks, which is a horrendous amount of time? Yeah.
Well, then we keep talking about it, don't we? This is the huge disruptive wave that people keep waiting to happen, and seemingly hasn't hit yet, but we keep dodging, don't we?
Well, if I was sitting in a business now and I was making 500 mil So if I was sitting in a business and I was making £800,000 profit a year, and I was driving around in my Bentley, and some person came along and said, "Proptech's going to change your life, change your," I go, "Yeah, okay, whatever." But if you're 22, 25, these new guys and girls who are setting up their own agencies, they've grown up with tech. They don't need to be told it's great, and they're the ones who are going to have all the big rewards. I'll
tell you what's an interesting angle there. You know what, we were talking about that stat that I'd found out that on average across agents, they have 21 suppliers, estate agency suppliers.
Do they?
Yeah, just in average, and those are just estate agency specific, so not including car fleets, electricity, all your standard office ones. But what was really interesting was actually those smaller ones you've just identified there. They're much more likely to have 30, 40, 50 because they're using apps left, right, and centre. They've got Zapier plugging things in. It's almost like they're almost like cyborg agents that they're able to just absorb this technology in a much easier fashion than those people, quite rightly, if they've got 10, 15, 20 offices, have to take a much more measured approach about, don't they?
Yeah, they do, and I can understand. And I think tech-enabled agents are the future. And being an agent myself, I think good agents, good customer service, it's always going to be there. But I think they've got to embrace the technology. And I think if you don't, it's not a problem, but you're just not going to make very much money. And then the agents who set up, who are going to be tech-enabled, are just going to eat your lunch.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Tom. Right. Really good of you to fill our listeners in on that, and we'll stay in touch with you down the event. Magic. Thanks very much, Andrew. Cheers.
Take care. All right, bye.
Bye.
All right, mate. How are you?
Hello there, Mr. Iain White. Welcome to the Kerfuffle podcast.
Thank you.
This is Simon Whale, who you know too well for my dulcet, lovely tones. Got David Mintz sat opposite me, and Milton from Inspect Real Estate, one of our guests here as well on the side. How are you, Iain, first and foremost?
Well, first of all, evening, gentlemen, and yes, very good, thank you. And yourself?
Excellent. And we should, of course, to give you your full title, industry mover and shaker, guru, spider's web of all things that go on in the industry.
I hate the word guru.
No, I don't think I said it, did I?
Yes, you did.
I don't actually know what my mouth says, so that's one of the biggest problems I've always had.
Really?
Yes, just one of them. Stop there. Don't be mean. Iain, well, there's many reasons we could get you onto this show, but I think one of the most interesting ones at the moment, in the light of your background, obviously having been so prominent at Romans and then moving over to Countrywide, is the news that keeps rolling on at the moment in terms of this Countrywide LSL story. Just wanted to get a feeling from you how likely you think it is to happen, and if you think it is going to happen, if it's actually a good thing for the parties involved.
The likelihood of it happening, I'm really on the fence, to be honest with you, because it's a very, very complicated deal. It's not a merger; it's a takeover. Let's be honest. It's being put out as a merger to keep the Countrywide senior people happy, but that's not what it is.
And it's from the LSL side, just to be clear on that.
Sorry, say that again?
It's from the LSL side where the takeover's coming from, yeah?
I'm not sure who's pushed the agenda, because it's also very, very clear, I think, to most people now that Countrywide need to do something fairly dramatic in order to rescue the position. I don't think just normal tactics. They can't fight their way out of where they found themselves.
They couldn't sell themselves out, could they? With the they were trying to sell out the what was it? Was it the commercial arm?
The Lambert Smith Hampton, where it would appear that somebody didn't do the due diligence on the buyer, and as per the recent article, they found the only Dane with no bacon. That's left them both embarrassed, but ultimately it's left them with a big hole in their budgets. And apart from selling off possibly some of their premium brands, the ones that have some real value and some real appeal.
And just to be clear, those would be like the Hamptons of the world, wouldn't they?
Hamptons, John D. Wood, they're excellent brands. They've got things like Gascoigne Peas that certainly have a footprint in a very, very good part of the UK, where you should be able to make an estate agency work very, very well, and make good headway profit-wise. Great house values, lots of turnover, etc., etc. So. I think it's become very clear that Countrywide have to do something dramatic, whether that be a complete and utter change of their customer service offering, which would be brave, selling off large parts of the business, which would be obvious, or in this case, what's being dressed up as a merger to find some significant savings across the management and other, elements of the business, because clearly there would be offices that would be duplicated, there would be staff functions that would be duplicated, and a lot of that would have to be, or would presumably be stripped out to make both businesses more efficient.
Is that horrible word, rationalisation?
Yes, there's no way that either party would be getting involved in it to keep the existing cost base where it is. So let's all be pretty obvious that is not the case. There is nothing in this for LSI if they're going to take on the entire cost base of Countrywide.
Yeah.
That makes no sense. Countrywide don't have anything in their infrastructure. Excuse me, I've got hiccups. Countrywide don't have anything in their infrastructure that would supersede what LSL have done or are doing. They seem to be slightly ahead of the curve in the structure and the strategies of their business. So I can't. I mean, will it happen?
Is there any risk from the CMA at all? Is there anyone saying that you can't, they won't be able to do this because of literally the size of the company, or is that not a factor? Do you think?
I don't think it's a factor. I mean, you wouldn't be the first person that's asked it, but I mean, on the grounds they only represent about 10% of the market between them. I can't see that that's relevant.
Okay. Stupid question, really.
In their peak, Countrywide would have held. I mean, there may be some individual towns where the CMA may have interest if they genuinely occupying all of the brands, but I as an entity to stop it happening through the CMA, no, I don't see that as a. I don't see that as being an issue. I just struggled. The bit I struggle with is why it's of interest to LSL, yet they appear to be the ones pushing the agenda. I can't see why they do it. They're moving along reasonably nicely. They've got a much more agile, quicker thinking, or appear to have a quicker thinking, quicker manoeuvring board. They're not saddled with huge debts. They're not making. They haven't got a big tail of offices they have got loss-making offices, but they haven't got a huge tail that's causing problems.
Got a huge rent roll though, hasn't it? Countrywide, to be fair, still is it 120,000 properties? That's still got to have some value in it down the line, hasn't it?
Well, I think the only thing I can think of is obviously the 120,000. Although I'm not sure those numbers are correct, but yes, there is a huge rent roll, and I can see that as an advantage. And I can see that their mortgage business may have some interest. Yep. I can see it. But as an estate agent, a chain and a network of estate agency businesses that is outdated, outmoded, not particularly well staffed in the main, doesn't have the champions of our industry running many, if any, of its offices, and has terrible infrastructure problems that need sorting, both in terms of technology, management, leadership, and everything else. That's definitely not what they're buying it for. So I think the rent roll is one of the answers. I think possibly the mortgage business is another. And there could be some rationalisation that make both businesses more economical in the future to run by sharing or removing an awful lot of cost.
But I should avoid doubling down and investing in those shares just for the moment?
It sounds like just the type of share you would buy.
I've already bought the share.
It depends how brave you are, Simon. But
brave or stupid?
A lot of people talked about not investing in Countrywide when the shares were 7 or 8p. Well, they've done pretty well, haven't they? Despite the performance of the business, they've actually done okay.
Yeah.
So share prices have always been very different to ground floor performance. And if a takeover stroke merger took real hold, they obviously have to acquire those shares, and I suspect you would see the shares go up by inertia alone. So you could argue, I'm not qualified, please, anybody listening, don't go buying shares on my say-so, but...
I guarantee Kerfuffle listeners, again, Iain White, share expert, has said, this is the one you want to double down, mortgage your house, do whatever you need to do.
Well, imagine having been in for £1 million and double downing when they were 7p and putting in 2 million. Just imagine where you'd be now.
Yeah.
So Countrywide hasn't been a real problem for it. Well, it's been a problem for some investors, but not those that have been able to chase the market down and keep buying as they went down, because they would have secured their position. It's gone up by so much now from 7p. What are they now? I haven't looked this morning. £3 something probably. I can't remember where they are. Does anyone know where they are? Has anybody looked?
I was having a look earlier. Let's just have a look, see where the. No, I don't want to look at that.
That's your web browsing history. You can come across.
Just delete that. That's, LSL that up to just up 63. We're Countrywide. For some reason, I've got pets at home. That's not relevant. I don't know where it is. Where's Countrywide?
Simon, you don't own a pet.
Yeah.
What's going on, man?
They're just slightly up there. Nothing much.
What are they sat at?
305.
So anyone that bought them at 7p has done very well. So I don't know. I mean, I think for the sake of the industry, a great name like Countrywide, I would like to see it survive. I would like to see it survive in a very different mantra than it currently is, because I don't think it's doing an awful lot for the industry. I think it could, and I think it should be able to do a lot for the industry, but I don't think it's doing much for it at the moment, because I think most of its shops are not particularly filled with highly skilled estate agents, and therefore they're not doing any favours for the actual industry as a whole in terms of people's perception of how it's done, or when it's done properly. Well, if they engage with a poor estate agent, that's their perception of how estate agents is.
But whereas in the past there was some very, there was a lot of strong brands, weren't they? And you knew they'd be strong on fees in areas, and so they wouldn't be a race to the bottom. So at least
the brands were strong, but the way that they were breeding their agents and training them was very much on that sort of corporate model.
Yeah.
And you tend to find when it filtered down to the negs, they were extremely unskilled, and the turnover of staff there was tremendous. You wouldn't know who you were dealing with from one day to the next.
Yeah. Okay, Ian, again, thank you very much for that expert view on that. Be interested. We'll catch in with you from time to time if that's okay, as that story develops.
Yeah, no worries, guys. Enjoy the rest of your podcast. Is it a podcast? Yeah, podcast.
Oh, it is.
Right?
Yeah.
Podcast. We've got everything here, Ian.
Okay, enjoy. Cheers, guys.
Cheers,
bye-bye.
mate. Thank you very much. Cheerio.
Bye-bye.
Lovely. Any of you use WhatsApp for business? I know you hardly ever respond to WhatsApp.
WhatsApp's one of the few people you can get me on. Yes, I am a big WhatsApp user.
So estate agents have now been warned over WhatsApp rules in what they call a ticking time bomb. Thousands of estate agents who use the free version of WhatsApp on their smartphones to communicate with customers are exposing themselves, and not in the way that you think. That is
what WhatsApp usually for.
Well, that's usually what you use WhatsApp for. They're exposing themselves to prosecution by WhatsApp and could face regulators over GDPR and privacy laws, it has been claimed. The use of WhatsApp within the sales and lettings industry is now widespread, but now many agencies from small independents to large corporates often have no idea that their staff are breaching the condition of WhatsApp's T's and C's. Most estate agents assume that the hugely popular free version of the app, which some 80% of people between 18 and 24 all use for their own personal smartphones, they're assuming that is going to be compliant, and it's not. There is a paid-for version.
But surely that doesn't contravene the GDPR bit just by itself. We're going to have to find something out. There's got to be more stuff, because that's just a communication tool, isn't it? It's not.
Well, here's the pitch. Are you ready for it? According to Paul Gandar, whose company Stitch enables agents to comply with WhatsApp's new rules.
Millennium Bug story. Spy with
By the way, if anyone calls you following this podcast, 10% to Kerfuffle, my friends. And they can be GDPR and privacy law compliant. He says thousands of agencies across the UK are unaware of the new requirements. Well, thanks to the Negotiator magazine and some paid-for advertising, they now are. Right.
What else you got for us?
I've got some gems. I'm a little bit worried about you.
Yeah. Is this a mental state, financial state?
Latest on the future of referral fees, including
this isn't good, is it?
Announcement expected shortly. So, industry regulator, the National Trading Standards Estate and Letting Agency team, it's got a really catchy acronym, NTSELAT. I think that's what it's called.
Has been off, which is brilliant.
Has been monitoring agents' compliance with their guidance on disclosure of referral fees over the last 12 months. And together with the Property Ombudsman, it has also recently asked agents to participate in a survey to assess agents' awareness and uptake of referral fee guidance rules. Now, they're going to have some real problems in implementing this, and we're expecting some major news on it. But they're basically saying that this is going to take the goodness out of the industry. Some comments on that online. Agents are in fact split into 4 camps, according to one bright spark. Those who refer customers onto third parties and receive referral fees and don't care about the quality of the conveyancing service that the public will receive, as the payments they receive total a massive amount and is too tempting. Those who refer customers onto third parties and receive referral fees and do care about the quality of the conveyancing service the public will receive. Those who refer customers onto the third parties and don't receive any referral fees at all, and those who don't refer customers onto third parties.
But you said that's about me, because actually isn't the real highlight of this story is that this is, again, just agents being victimised, because I, as a technology person, that's not going to apply to.
No, and I think it is about agents being victimised, and I think that...
One more punch. You know, sat there, rope a dope. What more can they hit us with?
They've taken all the goodness out of it. Yeah. But so the issue is here, and you're going to talk to us in a minute about where you've been last week and this week. But the issue is, and I've always said this, is that we have no real voice for our agency for the thousands of agents up and down the country that is actually lobbying on our behalf.
I think they're not lobbying; they're just being ignored.
I'm not sure that's the case. I think if you cozy up to people in Parliament because you want to become a regulator, so if you are the RICS or you're ARLA or the NAEA, hello to all of Simon's friends in all of those industries, but if you are from any of these places and you've got one eye on whether or not they're going to appoint you as a regulator, you're not going to put on that kind of pressure that's needed. Yeah. So if we've seen the industry come under fire, and we've seen money being taken out of agents' pockets every day, and the job that we have to do made harder. Now, some of this regulation is great. So when they talk about bringing ROPA in and all these changes that they're going to make, some of it's fantastic because we've gone unregulated forever. But the other point is we've got nobody that we can actually trust to stand up for us that we don't feel has a vested interest one way or the other. We need a hero. We need a regulator. And I have been petitioning Simon Wales to be that hero because we need to see his face in Westminster more often. Okay, if there's a man that they will listen to at Parliament, it's you.
As Trump said in 2014, I'm not running, but thank you, David. Watch this space.
But seriously, if anybody has had thoughts about becoming, I think we need pressure groups and we need lobbyists and we need people that are going to
come into play. That these things usually play out because you think about tenant fee bans and regulation, they did come into fruition. So they're bringing this in now. There's just the start of something that will not stop and it will come into play.
They made it clear that they see traditional agency as behind the times and because of that stopping the consumer. So they put all this faith in things like the online agents, which as we've just been discussing earlier, just is unwarranted, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Certainly where they are at the moment anyway, yeah.
But your issue is that what they'll do is they'll ask a bunch of questions very vaguely, not to everybody, and because they're not reaching every agent, because these organisations don't speak to every agent.
Based on a survey of 7 people.
There's only one organisation in the world that speaks to every agent, and that is the Kerfuffle podcast, my friend. Every week to every agent. We don't care whether you've paid us or not, but if you do want to send those checks in, really welcome. Rightmove released some fantastic results again.
So I was genuinely thinking there was going to be a little bit of a sort of a step off the stellar growth there. Obviously, we've seen a lot of agents dropping. We know dropping optimizer packages. So, few people even saying they're coming off entirely. And so I did think there was going to be a bit of a tale of a bit of a pause. And yet the figures themselves, there were, was it 1,000 agents? 1,000 agents have actually come off.
Yeah, I think they've had.
I think disappeared.
It may be even more than that. I can get you.
And
the
yet the
figures.
margins have again straight through the roof, and everyone's out there unsurprised, obviously talking about still 73, 75 profit margins.
Wow.
I think the Rightmove are putting this down to struggling agencies closing their doors and going elsewhere. But I think actually, if you were to speak to agents and listen to what is being written in the forum and the many forums online, if you are to read what's being said in the comments on all of the news sites, you'll actually find that agents have already started that process a couple of years ago. I know we did, cutting down all of the Rightmove products to go down to basic. And then you've got some absolute heroes and some brave souls that have decided that they're actually going to come off Rightmove altogether. Yeah. And they're going to try and generate those inquiries. And that does take a lot of balls. Because
where I have a lot of time is not so much when they just go for another portal, but where they go, okay, well, I'm going to look at Facebook. We're seeing some returns there. And they start doubling down on that, which everyone would accept is a very different audience, isn't it? Rather than shopping the same ones that are bouncing between the boards.
Well, it's seen as being more targeted, but I think that Rightmove's big hook always was that, well, we are synonymous with home moving. And that's it's still what Peter Brooks Johnson is saying. He's saying Rightmove is synonymous with home moving. 2019 being the 9th year in a row, more people searched on Google for Rightmove than for the property itself. And it's about changing that culture. And unfortunately, there are people out there that are trying. So you've seen what Robert...
And by the way, putting all our faith in Facebook. That charity, Zuckerberg's there for you people. Half the hospitals in the country will have to close down if we can't get his taxes.
I have to say, people like Robert May, and we follow an account online called Loorview who are looking at a blockchain use of portals. But they're doing some fantastic work. Their smart searches are a heck of a lot smarter than Rightmove's. However, it's about educating the public, not the agents. You're preaching to the converted when you talk to agents about Rightmove and the evils of letting a monopoly spring up. But the issue then becomes about getting that message across to the members of the public. So On the Market have tried to do that. Zoopla tried to do it. And what they all get really excited about is we've got a new TV advert out next week. Now, when was the last time you sat through TV adverts?
Consuming things differently now.
Exactly. So we tend to sort of target watch these days, don't we? So I'm going to go and binge watch a season of Say Yes to the Dress. That's your favourite show. I know that.
Yeah, me too.
Big fan. But you will not sit through the adverts if you can skip them. And these days you can skip them. So I think the message to all of these people is if you want to get to the public, you need to go where they are spending their time
hanging out.
So with these portals, why are agents hesitant to move? Is it because they're generating leads or tenant or buyer leads, or both landlords, high value leads, or both?
Less lettings, isn't it? To be fair, although I know Rightmove are putting a lot of work into that, but ostensibly they're getting still loads of leads from it. And the irony is, of course, is that a lot of agents don't do the best work with those leads that they do get.
Well, this is my next question. There's a lot of people who say they need it, otherwise they can't operate, but they amass this huge database of people. Now, rather than be transactional management, they could be relational management. So really keeping in touch with people, personalize your service, owning your patch, rather than going for fresh stuff. You've got this beautiful nurture thing. If you nurture it right, you think you don't really need it.
I think we became lazy because Rightmove basically made us bad agents. We'd stick a property up there. We'd think, okay, Rightmove have told us that's where the public are searching, and we will just wait for the fishes to come to us rather than us go out
order
to them.
Takers. I mean,
and it killed traditional estate agency. You know those days when you sat there with a Rolodex thinking, I'm going to call Mrs. Goggins.
You know all your buyers.
You don't do that anymore. No. And so I think
then you could deal with more than 10 buyers at a time, so that's quite helpful.
But whilst Rightmove are still that buzzword for searching for property, they've still got the stranglehold on the industry. So more work needs to be done in terms of educating the public, and that is where people like On the Market have, I think, in my humble opinion, have let us down.
They haven't stepped up to the bridge.
Their mantra of righting that wrong has not been done. So, Simon, the best bit of news this week, you were seen awake, on your feet and dressed.
9:30 a.m.
Get out of town.
At the Properymark National Association conference last week. Big
keynote speaker.
Keynote. Well, yeah.
The Gary V of.
Once I paid the fee, yes, they checked there was no way out. That was. I'll tell you just one story. But then they allowed me to be the main sponsor. They said you got two options. You can do half an hour of an informative intellectual talk where you can give the audience a lot of takeaways. I said option B, or you can talk about kerfuffle for 10 minutes. I said what are we going to do for the other 9 minutes?
So how did it go?
It was great. It was great. Thank you to Michael Stoop for saying that gave me another 10 minutes in bed. That was nice when you turned up as well. That was really well thought of. It was very good. It was a very warm feedback. It was interesting. They had a lot of people over from NAR, who's obviously the American arm of the business, and they were talking about it needing something like that over there. So talking to a lot of people are starting to really save a lot of money by just using some of the simple tools, the white papers we've done. Lawrence Rand, I think we spoke about saving £35,000 from his two offices. Goldfinch, a great agency up in the northeast, just by looking at their suppliers, saving just under £9,000 a year for their single office. And then the biggest one of all, Paramount single office again up in Hampstead, by cutting back on 5 suppliers that they weren't particularly using, saving just under £60,000. That again, like we were talking about before, they doubled down on those suppliers. So this isn't about cutting back per se. It's just making sure you're truly using partners rather than suppliers. Thought that was really interesting there. Some people are starting to see some of the benefits of that at the moment.
That's fantastic.
So it was good. What else was that? I managed to get a Theresa May joke in as well.
Go on.
Well, I was just
pretend I'm there. Take us through.
You know how you obviously need, you can either be informative or funny, and sometimes you can be both. You can be neither. Well, I was talking about, obviously, I know you have this vision that all you agents are great negotiators. It's put that coffee down. That sort of mentality. And actually, I actually showed the slide. It was one of the gifts that showed Theresa May, the sort of negotiator that walks out of DFS after having paid full price for a sofa. And that actually went down, although the Americans didn't know what the fuck I was talking about. But then that's not the first time.
It's because they don't have the beauty of DFS
in America. What with this eternal sales? Why are they not getting picked up, by the way? Never mind, sort of.
I think they might actually be having a closing down sale. So
they actually are.
Yeah. That was also in the papers. So as you know, the Kerfuffle podcast is not here to provide you with legal advice, ad hoc or otherwise. And I actually dream about picking up the industry press and not having to read a story about somebody being caught red-handed stealing money and being let go scot-free. But this week, in fact today, agent duped home seller out of £5,000 escapes jail. Seemingly £5,000 isn't enough to get you sent to jail these days.
You're genuinely onto a thing. I mean, I told you I thought it was a bullshit article and shouldn't really sit on the show. But
no, I'm bringing it in every week because I guess what I'm trying to say is that as long as it's white collar, and really it's seen as almost a victimless crime, although somebody does obviously. Who are the two
old fellas out of trading places that get? Randolph and Mortimer.
Yes,
it's that sort of white collar jail, isn't it? You can imagine. Oh well, it's not. It's not a real crime, is it? But they're just dipping into the client account.
But I think if you look at last week's story and this week's story, the one commonality is that we don't have the resources necessarily to police this properly.
Yeah,
and we certainly don't have the will or the resources to jail people over it. So until that happens, there is no real deterrent because it's not seen as being taken seriously enough by the authorities. And in this case, I think that the agent had advised the customer that the best price that they could get was £80,000 for the house, and in actual fact, £85,000 was paid in total consideration. That's 80 on the contract and £5,000 of cash that just went out of the way. And this must happen every day.
Yeah. And if those are the ones that are just coming to the fore, aren't they?
That's it. But when you read about escaping jail, it really fills you with hope as an agent.
Well, Milton, over in Australia, there obviously is very tight rules, isn't there, about that?
Massively.
Do you still get these stories though, that where there are people?
Having not been there for a while, I would say yes, but I think
we're gradually adopting you, aren't you?
Yeah, kind of. I think
you're losing the intonation at the end of your.
Yeah, it is. Yes, thank God for that. But I think what's interesting, what you mentioned, is you can have all these regulations in place, but if no one's actually policing it, who is not self-regulated, but it's government-regulated body overseeing the industry, then why all these rules are in place. They're just sort of that police, but no one's actually going to police them. It's just like
Guidelines.
best practice, please.
Yeah.
But no one's actually policing.
Well,
So people were just skipping. I mean, not naming names, I saw some agents up in the Northwest, and on their website, they're still charging tenant fees. But no one's actually policing, so they are getting away with it.
That's
so
very
We start to move towards the old Dubai model, where I know this for a fact, where they literally dip into the client account to buy themselves a Porsche or something like that. It is proper Wild West there in terms of stuff, and if you can't do that, then the trust will go out of it, and everything's going to explode, isn't it?
Purple bricks are again in the news. I know you hate it when I talk about purple bricks, but I have to every week until they're gone.
Need to get it out.
Purple bricks in new claims, fresh claims, about £18 million of fees made in 1 year from unsold homes.
Yeah, that's
So traditionally, purple bricks' model, for those of you that don't know, a lot of it's based on taking fees up front, and therefore
save all that money.
save it all.
Save
but
it.
you are basically paying somebody to list your house, not sell your house, and therefore after that the incentive's gone, the cash is gone, and £18 million.
And then if you believe it in the adverts, a cake in the face or something would happen, wouldn't it? And you'd look all stupid about going with a traditional agent.
However, Simon, no one watches adverts anymore.
That just proves I do.
There you
But
go.
then I've been on the dole for 2 years.
But in other news, and I think I sent this to you earlier today, Purple Bricks' Facebook page was taken down over the weekend.
Yeah, totally. People
and
are trying-
remains down. And this follows a pattern of agents removing their online presence
Yeah.
when they get bad
As
feedback.
soon as you start getting it, I mean, it's a risky road, that, because it really makes people who have left them, turns them into zealots, and you're either going to be on social at some stage, and these people are going to find you no matter what. So
if your estate agent isn't on social media, they are not the right estate agent for you. If they have no ability to leave a review, there's a reason for that.
Yep.
If you cannot find them on Facebook or on Google or on any of the numerous reputable online review platforms,
it's an enormous war.
move on.
So,
Would you book a hotel without, in Tenerife, that H10 place that
I don't know,
just
it depends
closed
if
down?
it's one that you're obsessed with, these book by the hour dirty things. That,
With plastic sheets or
I
something.
only need 10 minutes.
plastic sheets.
I've heard that from a reliable source.
But actually, spotted online this week, so indeed.co.uk have a potential to leave a review about employers.
No.
Okay, so basically, if you
Well,
previously,
what's the big site though? There's one that already allows you to review your
Glassdoor?
exactly.
Glassdoor,
And
does it?
businesses, despite
Yeah.
a lot of bad businesses do, because you're out there being saying our clients and our staff are the main thing,
They're so
and
happy
then
that-
people
but,
just
yeah.
jumping on.
well,
that.
Slagging them.
listen to this. So
Go on,
I must state that this is unverified as far as we're concerned.
Yep.
Ex Purple Brick employee review. I had no checks or information taken, but immediately started work without training. I was given no support or help, even when I asked for it multiple times. A very stressful job. Had people calling all hours of the day to my personal mobile. Such a relief when I left.
No, right.
Wow.
And thanks to Mark Smith for sending that in.
Okay. Now, another former employee from the Northeast who can't even write in full sentences, just a number of bullet points. Awful. Factory of valuers who never stay long. Extremely high turnover of staff. Chargebacks to self-employed LPEs are unjustified, unreasonable, and unethical. Underpaid, lied to, bullied, abused. Drug culture. Now that got my eye. I thought.
You sure this isn't a job advert?
I thought it was a job advert at that point. Drug culture and 70-hour weeks. Well, if you're working 70 hours, you're going to need a decent drug culture to keep up with that.
Rather than those Europeans in Corbyn trying to make us have 3 days off.
Lack of support, overwork, non-compliant with the HMRC, directors are incompetent, and they have a great blame culture.
Ambivalent on the HMRC one, to be honest.
So I actually think those are all great reasons to join an organisation like that. But this is it. We've said this before. You live and die by your
You're
own.
still got to be very careful with those Glassdoor ones, because I mean that is where
well,
anyone going out the door on it.
It's basically the equivalent of disgruntled tenants leaving reviews as well. So we must state that this show in no way endorses any of the reviews left on there.
We just
but
find
it
it
makes
funny.
you think, doesn't it? Okay. Other hot news, and one of Simon's takeaways from the NAA conference. Basically, everybody's talking about ways to speed up the selling process in the country and for it not to become derailed. And reservation agreement trials are coming out. So we've already touched on Gazelle, which I think is doing a good job. So the news is that the Minister of Housing and Communities Local Government suggested that trials will begin in the first quarter this year, but this has now been delayed. Matt Pryor, lead officer on buying reforms at MHCLG, another really nifty named organisation, updated delegates on the issue at the annual conference of the National Association of Estate Agents. He told agents that his department was still awaiting consultants' reports on the feasibility of the trials. But basically, I think what this comes down to is getting people ready to sell, which in Australia, I understand, is the way it works. Right?
I think it's the right way. It's one of the biggest transactions anyone makes, and I'm probably repeating what everyone says every single time. Like, it just gives no certainty to the process. I was completely kerfuffled or bamboozled when I got here and see people saying sales progression, that's a role. Like, I don't get it. Chains, people fighting at five up and it all falls over 5 down the line. And it doesn't make sense to me. That's not fair. It's not right. Particularly for salespeople and businesses, that you put in so much legwork into that process for it to all fall over.
You look about some of the best agents on the East Coast in Australia. You got a month campaign, and you were talking about they will be competing about. We've only been on the market for 14 days, 18 days. They come over and see with some of our best. And it's just factors of months that they just can't. They can't understand how it can be so. Yeah,
and then
so
and then you start to talk about fall through, and they're like, fall through.
Yeah,
and this is it's just a foreign language. It really is a foreign language.
So yeah.
So back to the industry press again, and I did promise you a story about a Ferrari, didn't I?
Did you?
Just about 2 minutes ago. One of the first signs of coronavirus is a lack of memory. Wife of ex-Yopa employee guilty of fraud thought his Ferrari was a company car. Now that's a hell of a job, isn't it? But this guy was paid $60,000 a year and worked for the national firm Camelot. So I think Camelot are behind the lottery, but they're also behind Yopa as well. He defrauded Yopa out of £505,000 and Camelot out of £960,000. Wow. And is now awaiting sentence. He'll probably get off.
Yep.
5,960 is relatively in the same ballpark, right?
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of big money. But again, his wife had no idea about this.
They never do they?
And the vast amount.
If you do it right.
Hello, Simon's wife.
There'd be a bigger fraud going on there if I had a wife.
Right, I think we're getting to that part in the show where we have to introduce our guest formally.
And deliver real value.
Completely.
Yeah.
This is where the Estate Agents podcast falls down.
You've just fluffed people in for the last 40 minutes. And
this is what I do. This is what I've been brought in.
Yeah, you can be happier. Could you just do in the news?
I see myself as the Trevor McDonald of the industry. Yeah, I do very much.
A Jewish Trevor McDonald.
You called me a Jewish Ricky Gervais. The other week I was a Jewish panda bear.
There's a problem with this party.
I am now the Jewish Trevor McDonald. I think it's racist to both Jewish people and Trevor McDonald all at the same time.
Okay, I apologise again.
To Trevor McDonald. Simon loves and hates everybody equally.
This is the dream intro that Milton riding on the wave.
All right. Let's rewind that and go again. We are happy to introduce our guest this week, Mr. Milton Jannusch.
Hey, you clap the other day. You don't have to clap yourself.
That's all right.
That's very.
He is joining us all the way from
just London, West London. Yeah.
I've
been here for a while.
Just London. I thought it was Australia.
Why not?
Wow. Okay.
Does that make it more exotic?
From Brisbane.
Yeah, Brisbane.
Australia.
Brisbane. There's an intonation. Bloody hate it.
And you're from a company called?
A company is called Inspect Real Estate, and we have multiple products, but I think we're going to speak about a few KeyWhere.
Okay. Cool. So Milton has got his box of tricks here, and I'd like to see him get it out.
Yeah, you don't say
this
that.
Is legitimate.
I don't get to say that.
Have we not? Why didn't you get the soundboard? So we've just done a Scooby-Doo style thing, and now what you can see in front of you is a magical glowing case. Now, this probably needs some explanation unless we're going to say goodbye at this stage.
It's not the control board at Chernobyl reactor 1, is it?
No. So these are the coronavirus cases. He's going to live. He's going to live.
There's Mr. Simon Whale. Flashing red.
That's not for that.
That's it.
Well, he's got my length right.
Take us through this fantastic bit of kit.
So let's deal with what the issue is first and foremost.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So a bit of, an intro into KeyWhere, as it were. It's basically, it will solve the issue of key transactions coming in and out of your office with your staff, your contractors, landlords, vendors, whoever it is, we're in key management. Yep. Because the one thing that we speak to people about in office is they have key issues, whether it's thousands of keys, hundreds of keys, whatever. Yep. So what we're trying to facilitate with KeyWhere is, rather than having to pull reports, you can physically see that, but depending on the color of the key.
Remember, we've got loads of listeners, so describe what we're looking at as well here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you're looking at a board. So this is your actual live interactive key reconciliation board. Okay. And as you interact with the board, it will then automatically check in and check out keys and make sure they're in the right place. And as soon as you put it on the right hook, it instantly checks it back in. Nice. So all that administration that goes around keys, that's what we're trying to solve. So the legend's pretty simple, and it's a very simple product, but it solves a very difficult and big issue. So you're looking at it. Green is it's the keys and the sets of keys to a property are in the right position. Now, if it goes to blue, and we can do that, it's simple of who's got the keys. So it's who's the property you're taking, who's taking the keys, and who they're going to. Yep. And you create loans, so I know which keys to take. Okay. As soon as you take that key off.
So you typed in something there on your laptop, just saying that you were, that as you would do in the CRM system or what you're using there, that's telling you it's now going to be passed out to an individual in the business.
Yep, correct.
And that's changed it from green to blue. Yep. Instantly visualised. Even someone as thick as me can picture out what's going on there. Thank you for...
No problems at all.
So when you
didn't even breathe there.
Perfect. Hang on.
So when you're at that honeymoon period of your marriage, when your wife still let you have keys to the house, you could hang them on here and never lose them.
This looks like what it's like when I gave it to my mates.
Perfect. So what I've done there is gone, this is the property, who's got the keys, when they're due back, and the loan gets created. The blue visual is now that loan's created, and I've actually received a transaction of, let's say, I've collected the key, and it could be from the agent. So that is the receipt of the checkout.
The full audit log, basically.
Yep, absolutely. So if that was to go overdue, then it communicates all the overdue. So via email and SMS as well. So they'll go purple, which is the color code.
Yep.
Now, when the keys come back in, what typically happens, people will sign them back in. They'll sit on someone's desk. Even with software, that happens because they don't go on the hook where they're actually supposed to. So with KeyWhere, we're mandating that process because all you have to do to check it back in is say, where does it belong, KeyWhere? And it tells you where it goes. Now, that's traditional.
So you just click to the bottom there, and it essentially just a bit like some towel lockers and things like that, don't they? In gyms, I believe.
Correct. Have you ever been to a gym?
I don't know. I was totally getting there. It's like me asking me to talk about morality.
He went for the free towels, right?
In a minute, I'm going to ask you, why do estate agents need keys?
Perfect. So what you're looking at there is the next color code, which is red, which is what we call missing or illegal loan. So that's not really a deterrent to keep someone from taking the keys off. So it goes red. That's first deterrent. Second deterrent, there's an alarm, which we've disabled for the demonstration purposes, which goes beep, 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 beep. So it actually get put back on the actual hook. Yep. Now, part of the tech that we have, an instant SMS can go out to the branch manager director within 3 to 5. 7 seconds has been the tops that we've waited for a text to go through to say that key's leaving. Now, the fourth deterrent, because everyone's got their own KeyWhere app, as well as their desktop using, we can actually track to see who looked at these keys if they're going to just take them out. So we can track them for those 4 deterrents. Now, that doesn't stop people from taking it, but it definitely encourages them to check best practice.
Because everyone's going to know who had it. There's no...
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
You can name and shame.
And so talk us what goes on in most agency offices at the moment.
So at the moment, you turn up at an agent, and if they're doing things by the book, they will have what's known as a key book. That will have a bunch of addresses and codes, and each key will have a code. So if you lose those keys, it cannot be traced back without the book. However, it's notoriously inefficient. So people will come in. You may sign it out, put it back on the wrong hook. That happens a lot. So, well,
most of when I go back to that, when you go backstage at an agent's, there's something that resembles like a Raiders of the Lost Ark sort of, all these keys hidden all over the place. If you
shiny stuff.
You get things shot
That's
at you.
it. But very often, as you know, a 69 can turn into a 96.
Exactly.
Right?
Zeros are right.
How many times does that happen? So
The really cool thing about this is it doesn't matter if you don't know where the keys go. You can ask it where to go and it'll tell you. Or if you put it on the wrong hook, KeyWhere will actually say, it was over there. So key management becomes a bit of an...
So it's a cheap game for kids as well?
Absolutely. It's child's play. Child's play.
We were gonna have a little game of battleship.
Okay.
Perfect. So there we go.
So this is extreme cutting edge then, is it, in terms of what your knowledge of what you've seen in the UK so far, obviously?
There's different key systems, peg systems, pads that you run things across, and they're all good systems. And it's just to reiterate what you were saying was every key management process is completely fine. And the idea is if you're following it to a T, then it's perfect. You know, don't invest in tech because you've got a great process. However, if you're doing heaps of admin just to do reconciliation, or you are losing keys and all those things that just equate to administration behind your processes, then you need
so the dirty little secret of estate agency, and this is globally because I've spoken to Milton about it. You used to have a bucket, I think.
Correct. We have a bucket of keys.
You had a bucket of keys when you're an agent. So everybody...
So they have only added toilets. Recently.
Everybody's got somewhere a massive box of keys that they have no idea where it links to. Seriously, I'm telling you. We talked about melting it down and making cars.
Is it like the money in the client account? If it's been in there for 5 years, you give a charity.
Correct.
If you've had it for 5 years, you could just go check.
Correct.
What am I going to find today?
Every now and again, somebody will say, "Have you seen the keys for such and such a property?" And then you would go to the magic box.
So this will get rid of that fun.
So this is going to get rid of that completely.
Shame.
Now, I'm not jumping the gun here, but the next stage of this is pretty cool. You guys are beta testing it as we speak.
It's the next version of it. You call it version 1.2 of KeyWhere.
Don't worry about beta testing. As far as I'm concerned, that's been here for years.
But the good part about it is...
Jetpacks.
Absolutely. So we know that, but with KeyWhere, we can track the keys as they come in and make mandates that process. So the next part is, where are your keys when they actually are out of the office? So with KeyWhere, and we're going through the next stage, hopefully June is what the date we spoke about earlier. It could be a little bit later for the UK. The idea is when you check keys out, exactly. You clip the GPS tracker in, you swipe it in, and then through the app, and how that looks was still going through how we want to look and feel about it. But you just know where the keys are by going, find my keys. Because the GPS tracker will be a static battery that when you want to find them, because it's overdue and you can't get in touch with that particular contractor or whoever it may be, or the repeat offender, you'll be able to exactly work out where the keys are. So
the presidential suite at the Hilton Hotel on Park Lane in London.
That's put it in your wife's pocket.
Good looking Neg. Sorry, that was very Wales-themed, that wasn't it?
That was horrible, Mr. Wales-themed.
Well, yeah, your mind just drifts off. Anyway.
So yes.
Okay, cool.
So that's the next version.
And I mean, we're looking at how many is that?
This is a cut down version of it, Simon. So we're looking at, I don't even know how many count is that, but the actual panel, KeyWhere panel, has 120 positions or properties. On each set, you can fit like typically your management, your viewing set, and your tenant set. With all good agents, because you all are good agents, that there'll be no void. So the tenant will come in and out just as quick as they came in and out. So you'll have two sets that sync with the panel.
Are you able to put any, I mean, we all know how inefficient it is, but are you able to do any studies about sort of the efficiency gains by using systems like this?
Yeah. Well, we've got clients across the world now. There's clients in the UK using it. So, we can get those people to say what they think about KeyWhere. And
does it work standalone? You're looking at integration with other CRMs? Or
we would absolutely do integration with CRMs, but I think at the moment is a standalone product.
You don't need it, do you?
No, because sometimes people just have a book, and that is completely standalone to software anyway. So,
but what's interesting is that in Australia, typically your lead time to actually let a property or to sell a property has to be a lot shorter, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So you need those time efficiencies, and that's why they've got these systems that typically a week, is it?
Yep. So that's how it works in Australia. So this is how we got into tech, because we used to be agents 2 lifetimes ago, and a let fee, is 1 week's rent plus tax. So you get really efficient of utilizing leads, diary management, how many staff you have executing those viewings, and key management is a big part of the viewing process, or in Australia we call inspections. So having a really streamlined process behind that, and it's really tech driven. That's why it's probably heavy tech in Australia, because if you want to run a profitable business, you've got to
spend less time tracking your keys and more time tracking your fees with KeyWhere.
You can have that for free. Well, what I like about it is it's that classic tech, isn't it, where it looks so idiotically simple that it means that there's some great stuff going on behind it.
Yeah. The reason I love this on the demo is it's a spectacle when this guy gets out this case.
Even if I don't go there, people go, "What's in the case?"
Yeah.
Now, depending on what case I bring,
but usually they're running.
But also,
as long as I bring the right case and I don't pull out something floppy.
Also, it's one of the very few areas of what I'd call physical prop tech, because the stuff that we deal with is software. It's in a cloud.
It's all ethereal, isn't it?
And this is actual stuff that you can touch and feel, and it actually works.
Day to day, in terms of what every agency needs it, and you know you can do it. And talk us price points.
Price point. So the panel itself is the investment. It's $575.
Yeah.
And the subs behind it are £45 per office.
Now the version of the panel that you see is a cut down version. It will hold 120 keys.
120 properties.
120 properties.
And sets for that particular property. Up to 3 on the hook will hold. Okay. Typically, you have your tenant set come in and out, as I mentioned. Okay. So you can even split it up between your sales and your lettings department if you've got
exceptional.
That.
Yeah. And do we have a groundbreaking offer for Kerfuffle members?
Absolutely.
Oh, yes,
absolutely.
Great.
So any Kerfuffle member can get this normal 10% off, which is about a really, really ad hoc number of 517, but we'd like to make it a nice even 500.
Nice.
So we can make sure that's a bit more palatable on the hip pocket.
Good.
That comes with 3-year warranties, replace, repair, all that good stuff that all tech should have. We'll be there to support you.
Okay, so anyone either go back to Milton directly and just mention Kerfuffle, or write into podcast at kerfuffle.it, just asking for a bit more information about the KeyWhere system, and we'll obviously forward on those details.
And we will post some links to your website and the videos and the explainers, and we'll get the word out.
Yeah, you do need to see it, which is probably why we shouldn't have done a podcast. But well, we'll talk about that later, David. That's a creative issue that we're gonna.
It's a vodcast, sweetheart.
It's a vodcast.
Which is why I've dressed in adult clothes.
Yes, and I've got George Dawes. Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much for that.
Perfect.
That's brilliant. Cheers, Milton. Good stuff. Anyone who wants us to discuss anything particular next week, let us know, because we're out of ideas.
We're going to have to do Ask Whaley next week.
Ask Whaley, yes. For those fans up, there was quite a few people there.
There were people wrote him.
You genuinely can't have too many of those in a row, because the seriousness of the show will fall off the side of a cliff.
We have gravitas, my friend.
We do.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you all. Cheers.
See you soon.
Excellent. See you.
Everyone's kerfuffling.